Hey everybody, it's another Tuesday and it is the ice show. It's a couple, well, let's say 3 weeks away. This weather is not being cooperating. How's everybody doing?
Great, Mitch. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. It was a
Ready for
great
some ice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
exactly. Gotta have sharp. You better have those sharp auger blades ready because pretty soon we're gonna need them. I think
yeah, no,
it's gonna turn.
Soon. I think we're still 3
No,
weeks out, but
there's no way it's staying warm in November. That's for sure.
It's hard to say. Like, I think we're going to get hit with it fast too, like Mitch said. But it'll be the first year where I'm not ice fishing in October if it keeps up like this in like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
yeah, no, like we're out camping this weekend for Thanksgiving, and hard frost, but no ice on the puddles. I know a couple weeks before I was fishing a different river and we had ice on the puddles, but it's still like 22 in the afternoon. We're hiding in the shade.
Yeah, it's awfully warm in the afternoon, so it makes it hard, and like water temps get to warm up a little bit. But hopefully we can see some overnight lows in the negatives here pretty soon. I've only seen one night go negative, but I've been fishing alpine lakes still, and they're good to go. So let's hope for some cooler temps soon.
How was everyone's Thanksgiving? We'll start with West and do the this way.
It was good. I just kind of laid low. I went out to aunts and uncles and just visited with family. I was going to go fishing, but I couldn't find the motivation. And then it was super windy yesterday anyhow, so it's probably good I didn't go. So
the turkey got you.
I got a few big trips planned coming up here in the next few days, so I wanted to save ambition for a 17-hour drive, I guess.
Yeah. that always kind of, it's the prep before.
17 hours, that's a long way, Wes.
It is.
What, do you mind if I ask where, like, what general direction you're going, or?
That way. Can you see that way?
Which way are you facing right now, Wes?
I don't even know, actually. I'm heading northeast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if you don't still run into some beautiful weather up there. I know some guys that are fishing Lakers right now up in some northern areas, and it's still pretty beautiful out. So I've seen the first little bit of snow come from Manitoba, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been some up in the passes, but
how was your Thanksgiving, Gibson?
It's good, man. Yeah, we just did the pretty standard issue thing and smoked a brisket and ate beans and coleslaw, standard Thanksgiving fare.
Sounds wonderful.
How about yours, man? What'd you get up to?
I fished as usual. I just went fly fishing for some goldens and then fished some brown trout. So there was lots to be thankful for because we caught lots of fish. So I can't really complain. But like I say, I can't wait for ice season. Ice season, I camp every weekend and I don't have to sleep in my truck like I do right now. So it's a lot better. Sleep in the tent, lots of room.
Why don't you just bring your tent with your truck and just pop it beside the truck?
Okay, so like my regular tent, that might be a thing. But like, I don't know. I just hate the setup and takedown of my tent. I like to get up and start moving. But my ice fishing tent next to my truck, no dice. I hate mice so much. I see these guys camp with their ice shacks, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I hate rodents. I could never do that. No way.
No, you don't like.
I've had gophers come in my shack on Newell. That place, those gophers will come to your shack there. I've seen it, like 50-meter runs from the shore across the ice. And you got to try to block your shack off. Make sure it goes in your buddy's shack, not yours.
Gophers.
What's the first size plans for you guys?
Well,
gonna chase pike, gonna chase walleye, or are you gonna do the typical trout thing?
Typical brookie. That'll be the first. It's always the first.
Well, usually like a lot of trout lakes are the first to freeze, I find, eh?
Yeah, we get brookies out here out west, so we go for the brookie. Like usually it's end of October, last week of October, but I think this year is going to be maybe first week in October if stuff doesn't get better.
Yeah, it's hard to say because like I notice water temps are coming down, so like that's a big thing, right? Like the water temperature being low is a big thing. So it might still be warm during the day, but it's nice to see the water temp come down. Hopefully, we can get a couple cold nights, and I think it'll freeze up quick.
Wes, what are you chasing first?
I'll do the same thing, trout or whatever. We got a brookie lake that hopefully it was accidentally heli stocked a few years back, the one, and then the other one was a dam that broke, and then or a dam that flooded and put some brookies into these lakes. So they're on year 7, I believe, year 6 or 7. So the numbers are pretty low, but the size is pretty impressive. So we should hopefully pull out a 22, 23, I guess. Took somebody named Sean out last year after I spent 3 days out there and seen one fish and didn't catch anything. Sean caught one in about 15 seconds of being there. So we pretty much wanted to pack up and go home, but we're going to try it again here first ice. So
yeah, Adam, you're pretty limited there.
Yeah, like stoked for hard water. You boys want to come out to Manitoba for some Laker action this winter? Yeah, Athapap would be sick to go fish Lakers at for sure with Scott. That would definitely be in the plans. I know I've been trying to make that trip for the last little while, but as for our first ice, it'll probably be the trout thing. I'm pretty limited in my little corner of the section of the world here, so it'll be brookies, tigers, rainbows, browns, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I saw Scott posting for a trip, but I don't think there's enough spots left for the Alberta kids, so you'd have to have a separate Alberta trip.
Well, you know me, I'd like to sleep on the ice, and booking a trip with the lodge. I mean, we should definitely do that, but I'm probably going to want to sleep on the ice at least a night or two.
Yeah, I enjoy going back to the lodge eventually and having a home-cooked meal and whatnot.
I actually don't understand what home-cooked meals are at this point in my life. I've just come to accept that Reese cups are home-cooked meals, and that works for me.
Yeah, I just buy a whole bunch of pizza and then just leave it. That's one thing about ice fishing is your pizza will last longer. So
yeah. I noticed you like your diet on ice fishing season is heavy in pizza and bacon.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much all we eat. You can buy a large pizza and it'll last you for 5 days. You need a large pizza and like a water bottle, and you're at least good for 5 days.
Gibson, what's your plans?
Standard issue brookies, got to do it.
Yeah,
they just eat so good right at first ice, right? So it's like a tradition to go out and head out west and get on that thin ice and sight fish them, right?
Absolutely. They're such gorgeous fish too. I mean, it's hard when they're at their most beautiful stage of the year not to want to go after them. So
wasn't it like a couple of years ago, Mitch, you had to rescue a guy out west that fell through the ice right beside you?
Well, it wasn't beside me. I think that was 3 or 4 years now, but I was leaving. Then Ryan Brown's wife came running over, said, "Hey, we need help." So I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" He's like, "That guy fell through, and he's in like 33 feet of water, and we're fishing 3 inches on the side." And he's sitting there like this, and he had a black shack all day. And he's sitting like this out his door, and we're looking at we're like, "Oh, dang, we better get him out of there quick." So we grabbed Ryan's sled. We cut the rope right away and kind of like slid it to him. One guy went out and slid it to him. But he wouldn't move his hands. Like he was set. He didn't want to move. He
was just too cold.
I don't know how long he was already in the water. I don't know. By the time I got there, he didn't want to move, so we pulled that back, and we had a rope, so we made a lasso and threw it and tried to get it around him, and he just wouldn't. He just didn't want to move. He was trying to flip it over him, but he just couldn't do it. And by that time, there was 3 younger guys. I never got their name. They were coming off too on the backside because we're all the last people. And we're like, "Go start your truck. Do you got anything that can help us?" And they're like, "Well, we got quad ramps." So they grabbed the quad ramps and brought him out. And we grabbed the skinniest kid off one of them, tied the the rope around him and through the quad wraps where all the ice was slowly just going away because all the water was coming up over, and he grabbed him and we started pulling him, so he fell through, but he was on the quad ramp, so then we could just kind of drag them both kind of to safety.
Crazy.
And we got him out, and yeah, that was nuts. But everyone is so level-headed, it went pretty smoothly for the situation. But you never want to see it.
No, going through is like something, especially early ice, we got to be careful of. I mean, everyone should carry picks or a float suit. There's lots of float suits available these days for people. But yeah, going through is definitely always a sketchy situation. And that one sounds definitely worrisome. Sounds like he had a bit of hypothermia going on if he wasn't able to move his arms very well or properly like cooperate with you guys to help himself, help you guys get him out of there. You know what I mean?
He did. And
I've had hypothermia. Later, it's a horrible experience.
We kind of found out he was maybe not the sharpest tool in the box either. I don't know how
so he's like me.
Yeah. But I got a picture from Ryan like 2 years later. He was ice fishing beside him on Sylvan Lake.
Oh, really?
So it was just so weird. But then we saw him on that lake a couple of years later as well. So
small world, eh?
Yeah, it was nuts.
So yeah, if you see me early ice, I got this Patagonia backpack that's you can squeeze it as hard as you want, and it's completely waterproof. So I always empty it and I inflate it with air, and then I've always got basically like a floating backpack on with me too that it'll keep me up if I go through. Then I can like throw it off and figure out what's going on, right? But I've been out on some sketchy ice with BJ and Sean before. BJ and I were fishing one time, and the ice was actually deflecting under our feet, and our feet were getting wet. So,
yeah, that's just sketchy. I hate that.
Yeah, like going through, like I don't know, unless you're comfortable with it, it can be a pretty sketchy experience. I've gone through 3 times. The first time, it was actually the ice was like 2 feet thick. I was just a little too close to shore, so it was like 6 feet of water, but it's all good. But like, yeah, like if you don't know what you're doing, man, that water's freezing cold. It's gonna shock you really fast, especially if you're alone. You might be in trouble.
Oh, we were all leaving, and like I don't know. Well, he was just hanging out, I guess, when we were leaving. But
yeah, it's weird that he like
if we were gone. If we were gone, like there was nothing helping him.
Yeah, unfortunately, you hear about that every year too. Is where something happens on early ice and it just doesn't work out for the person. But that's why I say, like, invest in a float suit. Like, I don't know, man, it'll save your life. Like 100% it'll save your life. When you go through with a float suit compared to like just not, it's a 100% buoyancy difference. Like, or like you say, Wes has a backpack like that. I mean, anything that's going to keep your head above water, because if your head goes under, especially, you might get disorientated, and then you're definitely in trouble.
Well, I see Kevin's comment on the backpack. So the reason I wear it, though, Kevin, too, is so I got way more surface area when I hit the ice. So that's one thing, is just if you are going to go through, throw your arms out, right? Just try and make a large area as you're falling through to try and catch yourself or slow yourself down so you can prevent yourself from going under, right? So I've fallen through before, and I've actually had to like put my sleeves in the water to freeze my sleeves and freeze them onto the ice to pull myself out when I was younger and foolish, or just so you can get on there. Aaron Weeb actually does a pretty good YouTube video for recovering out of the ice. Yeah, so ice picks that Mitch has there. And then just like you have to just kind of calm yourself down and lay yourself flat on the ice, right? And just
relax. Don't panic. Take that moment to breathe, because that shock's going to hit right off the bat, then just relax and just, because these just go around your neck. It's easy just to hang these around your neck. That first trip out, they're not getting in the way. They're heavy enough. They stay right on your body. And they're just one other safety aspect. Same as a rope. Like if you're going into something sketchy, like first ice, the best thing is brookies, because you're in tight. 3 to 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet of water. and you can tie a rope off on a tree if you have that luxury. Otherwise, put a peg there and just bring that rope out with you. Hammer it in. Then you got.
Well, likely, like when you're that shallow, like unless you're like super short, like I am, like I'm good to, I can fish 5 feet of water and still touch bottom, right? Like so. That gives me that 10 inches of buffer zone where my head is still above the water. You know what I mean? But like you say, it's just about being calm. And if you do go through, I found it's almost a natural reaction before you even realize it. Because like I say, I've gone through a few times where your arms almost just shoot out anyways. So whether or not those arms break through or not is kind of going to make a difference. But like Mitch says, get some pegs. Those are definitely handy because you don't want to be freezing your sleeves to the ice trying to get yourself out.
There's
a lot of good stuff on YouTube too. Right?
Absolutely.
There's tons of stuff on like what to do if you do go through and how to get out. Aaron Weeb does one. I've seen a ton of good stuff. That I mean, we should all be looking at it every year at the start of the season just in case. And don't fish brookies in 30 feet of water. They're not in there.
That's not first ice. No. I always bring a like a spare change of clothes too. Like I don't know, I always end up with wet knees somehow, anyways. But it's nice if you do go through to change into some dry clothes because it's important not to change like immediately. But like get a truck warm, get warm, and then change because you don't want to sit in those wet clothes obviously for the entire ride home. So just make sure you bring an extra set of clothes. It's a pretty easy thing to do to be a little bit of a safety buffer for yourself.
Yeah, no, like even like the bibs I wear all season. Yeah. And like if you saw the other weekend when I let my boat slowly drift into the lake and I had to go swimming for it, I probably had dang near 4 liters of water on both my legs when I came out of the water.
Yeah.
On the bottoms, like that got into there.
Yeah.
If you were trying to pull that extra weight out of that water, that wouldn't be fun.
No.
At all.
Hopefully we get a good, long, extended cold break to start the ice season. We don't get that like crappy -3 BS and then a bunch of snow.
Like last year.
Crappy layer of ice.
Yeah.
Right?
Last year was a rough one.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get one, like Wes said, maybe we'll get a hard and fast and it'll be good and start us off on a good foot.
Well, even hopefully we get a bunch of cold weather before we get snow too, so we can get a good base pack ice and stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely crucial, especially for like later on in the season, right? Like once you get into March, if your bottom layer was rotten to begin with, once we get into March, it's going to be horrible. So it's kind of nice to get that good hard freeze right off the bat so that you know you're going to have that extended season and the ice is going to hold up into March Madness. You know, we're talking early ice now, but it's always nice to have good ice late in the season. I know 2 years ago it was questionable whether it was going to be sticking around or not. So
what else?
Clothes, boots, mitts, socks, hats, always in the truck. Absolutely.
Yeah. You always need that extra, even if you're not going fishing. You could just 100%. Be on a trip and your vehicle breaks down.
I've actually
roast hunting.
I've been keeping my bibs in my truck for the last like 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks. Since Walleye Wars, anyways. Walleye Wars, I know there were some cold nights there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a wimp, but it was cold.
So I got totally wrecked at Walleye Wars this year, but I was out there fishing by myself and it was like 10:30 at night and it was dark and I was by myself and I was out of cell phone reception and that Elon Musk satellites went by. That, like Starlink. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's in like a straight line. And I swear I was like, well, that's it. Russia's attacking Ottawa. It's all over. I didn't know about these things. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I got no cell phone reception. I'm just waiting for like, the east to light up. But yeah, I felt like an idiot when I got back to civilization, looked it up like, no, they're just satellites.
I looked at Walleye Wars and then I decided to go to Saskatchewan fishing. I was just like, did I enter? And then I was like, no, I'm going trout fishing in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be nice to get the numbers up a little more so there's a little more profit in it.
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
price you pay. Because I think you need like 40 more people at least to make a full.
It is a cool format. I do think the format is definitely cool. It'd just be cool to see it, like you say, like the full prizes that are there,
I
to
think
be
it's
actually
still
there,
fun.
and just maybe like, I don't know. I just got to get better with my solo. Maybe I just shouldn't go solo fishing so much. I had a beauty fish. I even said Gibbs to the picture, and I looked at it after, and I was like, "Yeah, you're complaining." Like in my head, I was like, "That's clear enough, man." I looked at the picture, I was like, "That's brutal." But I just need to. I'm like looking forward to the ice fishing one because I just feel like there's some things in place that would help that tournament definitely grow itself, because I feel like it kind of gets looked at certain ways because guys know that certain things are going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think they can advertise it more and build it up more, but I think Alberta as a whole has to do better if they want to have like a good tournament kind of setup, because we're like Alberta, we have some good tournaments, but like nothing like the East.
Well, I
East,
think that just comes from, I mean, there's a lot of money in the East, right? There's a lot of people in the East. There's
we
a
have
lot
a
of
lot
water
of
in the East.
We're still paying the East to hang out with us.
Yeah, but yeah, but I don't know how to make that argument. I'm sorry. I don't know where that argument comes from. But like, I mean, like, I would like to see that too. And I think that comes with things like the Cold Lake tournament doing good, seeing a good turnout, Walleye Wars seeing good turnout. And there's tons of other, if you go on like Anglers Atlas, it seems like there's a few tournaments that happen throughout the year that Alberta is within the boundaries for. So, I mean, you want to make yourself an extra couple bucks and you think you're going to do okay, go give her a go.
That's
I know
exactly
there
what
was
I
one a
did,
few weeks.
and I didn't do well at all.
Well, they did that one.
Bro,
They
that's the
did-
thing, is like a 26.5-inch walleye is a nice walleye.
Not in tournament fishing, it's not.
Not in tournament fishing, though. That's the only thing. It's like tournament fishing, it might not be, but that's a good walleye regardless. I did all right. I mean, I think I got 6.
Rick was asking.
Yeah, I think I finished 6 with a 30 on the dot. It was a river walleye. So I was proud to be from the river. I really enjoy fishing the South Saskatchewan, so I got 3 super nice fish out of there. And I think I finished like 5th or 6th or something like that for top 3 walleye too. I had a 30, a 29.25, and a 29. And the fish that was not a very good photo, because honestly my headlamp burnt out and I just probably should have tried a little harder, was a 30.25 from the river as well. So that was a tank too.
And there was a lot of good sticks in that tournament. There's a lot that didn't fish, like Wes and the
right, absolutely.
There's a bunch of guys that didn't fish it, right? But there was a lot that did and didn't break top 10. So I didn't feel all that bad. But I think there's 42 anglers this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so from 1st to 6th, and my fish was 30 on the dot, were all 30-inch fish. The winning fish was what, 30.25 or 30.125 or something like that.
The winning
or
fish?
31.125.
31, yeah.
Yeah, 31.125. And then everything from 1st to 6th after that was 30 inches or above. So all like really high quality fish coming in. Even the top 10s were all 29s. Like there's a lot of really good fish entered in that.
As much as I love rehashing how poorly I did in a tournament that happened last month, this is an ice fishing show. So can we move on? I'm gonna start crying here. So
because Walleye Wars is gonna come in the ice season, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. Hopefully I can reclaim some amount of dignity.
Oh, I've seen Gibson. I've seen your walleyes in the ice season and your pike in the ice season, and those are gonna be awesome.
Well, now that you have to measure them and you can't shove them full of lead weights, I'm no good, man. It's all over.
Washed up.
All over.
Only live well picks from now on. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Anyway, that's a whole new show. That's a scandal show that we're not going to talk about.
I got a question for you, Gibson. I noticed you drill the live well in your shack lots.
Yep.
Or I've seen it in your shack.
Yep.
What shack are you running? there's lots of shacks out there. I mean, I'm kind of looking at getting a new shack this year. I need a little bit wider of a unit, I think. So what are you running for a shack?
I've run a bunch of them. Right now I'm running an Otter. I think it's the XT Pro Lodge. I think
Okay.
so. The Octagon.
Is that like
right?
the oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
The big
the
Octagon.
hexagon, not an octagon. But
Yeah.
I've run a bunch of them, and this one's good. I mean, really,
Yeah,
I like the shape better than the rectangles now. I find the rectangles with the way that our wind swirls, no matter what you do, you're always going to get some wind hitting that long side, and you're blowing hubs in. So I find that that shape works really well at blocking crazy high winds.
Okay, because I was thinking about switching to that. Because as you know, I run a rectangle shack, and I was thinking about switching to like an octagon. I'll probably or whatever they turn out to be.
You can do 2 cots in it if you run small cots, but you have to run your holes down the middle.
No one's sleeping in my shack with me ever.
You can run them on the outside. I always run my holes on the outside and then put the cots kind of closer. I've slept 4 in my tent before, though. It's tight, but like I fished with Matt Young with 3 of us fishing in the tent before. Put the holes on the outside edge of the tent and then the bed's inside that. And then each guy has their own side of the tent. And then that's how I always set mine up or whatever, right?
In a hexagon or a rectangle?
Yeah, that's all I run is a hexagon. Yeah.
Really? No way.
Yeah, I've ran those for probably 10 years. But yeah, we always do the holes on the outside walls, so we're the furthest away.
That's smart.
And then we kind of rock, paper, scissors ever. We either get one guy gets the shallow side, one guy gets the deep side, but we typically try and run the tent so that you have one deep hole, one shallow hole. So we try and do it, but it depends whether it's 3 a.m. or not when we're setting up or whatever. But but even on that, like setting up inside the tent before, I've had a spot last year where I could legitimately drop down and feel me hit a rock and slide off the rock, and I wasn't catching nothing in that hole. I moved my 2 holes over inside the tent, so like 10 inches over, 20, 15 inches over inside the tent, drilled another hole, and I started catching fish, right? So it can be touch and go inside the tent, right? But
yeah, I run a hexagon too. It's old Cabela's Ice Team one, not maybe 4 or 5 years old, insulated, and it's big. Like the headroom in there, I'm 6'3", and I can stand around and walk around in that thing no problem.
Yeah, I can't walk in my tent. I'm like 6'3.5", 6'4", and I can't walk in there. But I mean, I guess I'm super lazy and I never shovel the snow out of my tent either. So because I move all the time. So if I shoveled the snowpack down, it'd probably help a little bit, right? But
yeah.
Well, I camp a lot, so like I'm a big fan of like the new style of door, like the full opening door that I see on some of the Otters and the Eskimos.
Yeah, I would go
I was thinking about going with a hexagon style instead of the rectangle.
The new Otters are getting real poor reviews with that full open door. Hey, like Sean, got this.
I liked the Otters when it was like the triangle door where it had the zippers going each way.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah. They have a huge like new selection this year.
Yeah.
I saw they have like a whole new lineup.
Yeah, I think some of those are the same as last year, but I referred a few friends to buy the tents and like they didn't last 4 trips. And like I've used my Otter tent for probably 7 years, and like I sleep in my tent every weekend, and like I put on 15,000 K on a skidoo in the backcountry. So like I'm hard on gear, but like always make sure when I get home, like whenever I close the door, I always pull the hub in on the side, close the zipper up with the hub collapsed, and then I push the hubs out. I always make sure that like I take my tent out of the thing, set it up in the basement, dry it out with fans when I get home. So like I never have fabric decay or fabric issues, right? But I've had really good luck with Otter.
Yeah, and see, like honestly, like I have Fraybells, and I've always heard really bad things about the units that I have, but I haven't had any issues. So actually, that's a lie. On a super windy day last year, I tried to close one of my doors and rip the doors, but it's still like the old round style doors, so they're not even very good, right?
I think a lot of folks
as long as you take care of your stuff, I find it lasts quite well. Like,
and a lot of people
airing
don't
your tent out
fish as much as we do, right? So they buy a tent, they go take it out, they use it, and they don't really know how to set it up or take it down, and it doesn't end up working for them, so they get pissed off, right? Whereas if we're using it as frequently as we are, we kind of have our system to make sure it gets set up properly, the doors closed properly, and that we can use it every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I don't know. I like waxing my zippers. I think that makes a huge difference. Of course, whenever you're pegging down, your doors are closed, right? So that they open and close nice. But I found that waxing my zippers, it eliminated any zipper blowouts because you're not struggling with them or weakening them by trying to ram them closed in the wind.
Right. And that's something I should give a go on. And you actually taught me something with it, taking the ratchet strap. So I use like actual ratchet straps instead of the little ties that your shack usually comes with, because it helps a lot when you're, especially in Southeast Alberta when it's super windy all night.
Totally.
But just give your ratchet strap a twist, then you don't have to listen to the wind noise all night.
Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you get that awkward kind of sound going on. So yeah. But the Eskimos, I've used the Eskimos with the full man door, and I found that those were awesome. No, it wasn't like it was a buddy of mine that I was using, and I found that was awesome. I haven't tried the otter ones myself. I just seen that they had them this year, and I imagine they worked pretty well.
I think the Eskimos are pretty sick. The only thing too I find is that they're a little bit awkward to insulate or seal up the wind around that door, right? So
okay.
Yeah,
See,
your
and
door has to be facing downwind, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The wind shifts.
In a perfect world, the wind never changes.
Yeah, but
yeah. Both guys that I know that use that Eskimo that have the man door like that also have folding out floors, like wooden styrofoam floors, so they don't have any wind issues like that. And that's quite the upgrade. I mean, something maybe if you're driving out constantly, but having that fold out floor that was insulated was huge for overnighters.
Well, especially for guys up north. Like anytime you get north of Red Deer, you're not going to scrape the snow down to the ice. If you do, you're just going to be in floodwater anyway. Like for us down south, there's hardly ever snow on the ice, right?
Yeah,
you're on the ice.
Off.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that snow underneath, keeping that snow on you keeps it from being a mess, and then it keeps a pile of actual heat into insulation in, right? But I got the exercise mats or whatever from Walmart. They're my floor, right?
Yeah, that's what I use as well. It's just exercise mat.
That's what we use as well.
Yeah,
works great.
Small. They're easy to
Must
pack.
have.
Keeps their dry spots, right? So, but the other thing I got kind of for a new product, I've had a whole pile of people message me about what's going on with the whole kind of hints being dropped by a few of the teams there, Clayton and Aaron and Jay and stuff like that. So I just want to clarify with everyone that I don't really have any sorts of clue. I see Adam dropped a hint on the game of inches, but kind of the big new product launch that I have is just like I'm kind of like Hockey Canada right now, guys, where I'm doing a rebranding. This is kind of what I got happening this year. It's just a rebrand. So for everyone that keeps sending me a message about what's going on in this YouTube channel, I don't know. So it just so this is my rebrand here.
Well, what are you gonna do?
That's killer.
What was that?
That's the new channel.
Well, this is me just rebranding. So it's like I say, I'm just kind of, some people might say it's a bit of a copyright infringement, but it's just a rebrand on my part. So but yeah, I guess there's been quite a few teasers being dropped. Oh, there's Sean right there. Hashtag Game of Inches. So I see Adam posted something the other day, but I honestly don't know what's going on. So for everyone that messages me every time somebody drops a hint, I honestly don't know. So
okay, is there gonna be a new first 48 or the 48 series, 48 hours?
It's 39 hours, first of all.
39 hours.
It's not a crime show.
There's
39 hours. Is there going to be a new first 48? Yeah, probably. Check with A&E.
There's
Well, they might be picking it up.
all I know is there's some, I think a few channels got together and they did a series. So I don't know if they're sticking with the same branding for 39 hours season 3 as Brody just posted, or if it's actually Game of Inches that Sean posted just like one above. But just I have this posted just because I get hammered with messages. Anytime anyone sends anything, they send me a message. I must be the guy that replies to everything. So this was just a clarity thing here.
So you have your own team, I'm assuming.
Me? No.
Yeah, you're the fishing nerd.
Oh yeah, I'm now. This is just this as
Now,
of today,
now.
Now
10 minutes ago.
you're branching off.
Yeah, I'm branching off.
You're going solo.
If you need a filmer, let me know. I'm into filming.
Yeah, no, that'll be exciting to see what comes from that. Can't wait to see what the fishing nerd has.
Nothing yet. So to answer your question there, Rick, I don't have a YouTube channel, and I seen your question. I would comment above a little bit saying that you've been spying on my fish pictures and you're going to steal my spots. So I've actually pretty much stopped posting, and I think Brody's "he's alive" comment was probably to me. I pretty much stopped posting the last few months or whatever. I got probably about 400 pretty epic fish pictures on my phone that I might post, but I just stopped posting because of people looking for me constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about the portrait shot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, to just blur out your background. That's why I like ice fishing, is I take
Fishing is so funny now. Holy.
I take all my pictures inside my tent so you guys can't figure out where we are. But my problem is I got that skidoo with a 24-inch wide track, so I leave a pretty noticeable spot where I go. So I pretty much drag a set of harrows behind me now. So if you guys see something that looks like something's been drugged like a floor of a tent, it's just me harrowing my spot.
Okay. What are you guys going to do for a go-to tackle? Let's say for trout this year. What kind of tactics are you going to use through the ice? Let's start with a Tiger Brown Brookie combo. They're kind of aggressive. I know they're different sizes, but what is kind of the thing you're going to go to for those char kind of fish?
First thing coming out of my box when I'm fishing brookies, tigers, rainbows, anything above mentioned trout is Cleo or some sort of spoon. Whether it's got a fast fall rate or more of a flutter fall rate, I like to have both ready. I actually have a video about this on my YouTube because the fall rate will determine whether they'll eat. A lot of those stock fish are pretty finicky. So I'll take something like let's say the Cleo, which falls decently fast but has a good flutter still. And then something like the Tingler spoon from VMC, which falls very slow with a very wide flutter. And some days, like, and in a brookie video I have, the brookies won't eat the Cleo, or sorry, they won't eat the Tingler spoon because it's falling too slow and too fluttery, but they'll eat the Cleo with more control over it and being more vertical straight up and down. Always a spoon if I'm fishing stalkers. Sometimes a really small rip and wrap would be my next go-to option.
What's your color
For rip and wrap?
For your spoons, rip and wraps?
Oh, geez, you're getting way deep here.
Okay.
Gold and red is like anything gold, like all the way across for spoons. Like even once we go into walleye, gold spoons. But like trout, like gold and red, silver and blue does well as well. But I'm not as big of a fan. Then rip and wraps like white and pink, white and orange, UV colors, but just like the small ones, and ripping them super hard and just keep climbing in your column. If you don't have a flasher to tell, it makes it kind of hard, but
yeah,
if you got that many stuck together, you'll do all right.
Yeah, that's where you get them when they're in spawning. You can just rip those. I use, if it's a bait band lake, some of our trout lakes up in this area are bait bands, so I'll use like a slab wrap or a fly, right? So I'll run a fly on my jaw jackers. So like early season and stuff like that, I'll use a blob. But for brookies and stuff like that, I'm trying to find my camera. So small, like 16th ounce jig head and a rubber minnow body and just like tap bottom. I used to be
the
kind
twitch
of
tail.
Yeah, you had little twitch tail kind of stuff. I'm using these power bait ones that I can find at they're pro minnow twitch tails. I used to be using a big heavier jigs or whatever, so you had more feel. But light line and small jig heads, because lots of times the fish will come and suck it up and spit it out before you even kind of notice it, or they'll try and pick it up and feel the weight. So don't be afraid to go with small sized jig heads, or even nowadays you can even go with tungsten. So they're smaller, heavier kind of stuff. But like this is, a pretty common size that I'll take with me when I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, with stalkers, it's kind of nice, like if you can downsize like that, especially like, I mean, even hair jigs, like a black hair jig, whether you want to tip it with something or not, that's up to you. Like Wes says, there's a lot of bait bands and a lot of lakes up north. Down here in the south, we don't have that issue so much. But on your jaw jack, on your set line like that, it's always nice to have something like a hair jig or a fly or something like that sitting there. So. What wheel are you using? Jaw jacker. That completely depends on what I'm using, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll run
So like I like to use, and this will be the more important thing to tell you than what wheel are you using. So if you use like I like to use flutter spoons, like we're talking about using flutter spoons right now. I like to use flutter spoons on my jigging jaw jacker. The first two wheels, you think the second wheel would probably do it. It does absolutely nothing with the spoon. It just kind of lifts it and makes it go like this. So you have to use that ripping wheel pretty much if you want your spoon to have an actually aggressive flutter. The key there is to put an earplug or whatever you may have available in your trigger, and then your line won't fall out of your trigger as it comes back down, because your jaw jacker is going to drop faster than your line is going to fall with a flutter spoon. So you need to stick something into the trigger.
I don't know if you guys can see this. So just an foam earplug, you stuff it in your trigger just to keep your line from falling out. So it works in the wind, works in or spoons and stuff like that. But for me, for what wheel I use, I've actually 3D printed my own custom wheels. So I can get the exact action I want on my jig. So I pack about 10 wheels depending on what hook I'm going to use. And even like the factory ones that came with it, I got 2 jigging jaw jackers, and I actually took them to my bandsaw and just like made my own profiles. So I have the 3 stock ones, and then I made my own profiles with the rest of them, so I can actually cut. Like last year, I started using BMC tinglers and just like touching the bottom, touching bottom. I've actually cut out my own wheels on that big wheel one. So I took a few of the notches out just so you could have the exact flutter I wanted, right? So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's the
I'm
advantage.
surprised nobody's figured that out yet. Made like on Amazon, like a pack of 10 wheels. There. Anybody listening? You want to make a whole bunch of money?
Yeah.
Put out some aftermarket jaw jacker.
Hey,
so you have a whole
that's
bunch of wheels.
Wesley's idea.
Yeah, you're taking
Why are
away
you
from.
stealing Wesley's
Of
idea?
course.
There's a lot of copyright infringement happening tonight on this show, and I don't.
I've never heard of anybody
Don't
actually
feel
3D printing it
gifted.
though, but if anybody were to do it, Wes, it would be you. So I'm not surprised at all.
I gotta get. I got the live scope, so I can see exactly what my hook is doing, and I can watch how the fish. Like, I can have my live scope set up in the middle of the tent, and like if it's in the morning and we feel lazy, we'll have all 4 jaw jackers set up, and 2 will be stationary, and 2 or 3 will be jigging, and like we can actually watch the fish interact with our jaw jackers, and then like it's pretty wild for like even your regular jaw jacker, how often like the fish will take your hook. And like it's like a 4 or 5 second delay before you'll actually set off your trigger, right? So you can go and like watch it on your live scope and be like, oh, I'm gonna go catch a fish, and then you can actually whap the trigger down yourself or pick the rod up and catch the fish yourself, right?
Yeah, there's people already 3D printing new ones. So Wesley,
They have no. So there's a problem with what they're doing. They're just gonna go randomly 3D print wheels. Wes has dialed science to his wheels.
Yeah, I've got mine pretty much rigged up per hook.
Which we will talk after show. I will use that Tingler. That Tingler wheel. $50 per wheel.
The Fishing Nerds King of Wheel.
Yeah.
King of Wheel.
Yeah, that's crazy, but it makes sense, like 100%, given those different, like even watching your camera when fish are reacting. Like I know a lot of guys run cameras, a lot of guys have flashers, and the live scope's coming in more and more frequently kind of into the mainstream because the price is coming down more and more. but just watching those fish react to the camera and the way you twitch it, yeah, like Wesley said, it's you can totally adjust that situation to your jaw jacker.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. And like the live scope, like what Wes and you are touching on there is really important, because like the live scope is the most extreme end of it, right? And then you can go down to like your lower end hummingbird, like say even below the helix, you can go into the ice models like the 35, the 45 and stuff. What a lot of people don't do when they're looking at their camera or they're looking at their flasher, they're just looking at, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's a lot of like what it takes to get better is learning what they're doing while you're doing that. Like it's not just about, oh, there's a fish. It's like, what exactly is that fish doing? How is it reacting at this point? And you can tell all that stuff on a basic flasher or like a Helix 7 or a camera. Just the live scope is the extreme version of that to really, really dial that in. So you may not have the live scope, but you can still dial that in with any electronic that you have.
I think I just disappeared on you guys. The other piece is communication with your buddy too, right? Like, so for me, like Sean and I are pretty competitive, but we'll still talk. And like, if it's a weird bite or something, it's just like, okay, one of us is going to be aggressive. One of us is going to use a rattle bait. One of us is going to go super finesse and stuff like that. And we'll see how the fish react. And like, I used to be hardcore walleye fishing, early ice and stuff like that. And like, I use the Jackal TN50s, TN60s and stuff like that, like super loud. And I used to always be on these and stuff like that and did pretty well until you really start watching like on the live scope where I can see 40 or 50 feet away and watch just how the fish interact with those. And like, I'm only getting 5% of the fish that are in the lake to come in and look at it, but the ones that are coming are going to be aggressive and bite.
They're active.
Yeah. The ones that still aren't coming, like last year I switched. So like prior to last season, I was always huge on long shank jig heads, right? Like I custom ordered piles of these and I thought, oh, I need a long shank jig head to prevent like miss bites and miss hookup. Sometimes I would run stingers on those. Well, last season I got sponsored by a jig company and I started using tungstens. So my goal last winter was to catch every species in the province on the tungsten jig, which I've now completed. I think it's other than golden trout because I haven't gone yet, but I thought for sure I'd get piles of miss bites or piles of short bites or miss lots of fish, pull lots of fish out. You don't lose fish. And like, I know some guys have issues with like the hook strength on those tungstens. Like I can pull and bend on this thing as hard as I want. And I haven't had an issue yet, but it's just the fish act so different. Like I've been out before Slave Lake and like Matt and I last year, we were in a group of probably 20 people around us and we were catching a walleye every few seconds and everyone around us actually came over and seen what we were doing. And I pretty much sold my jig box. And yeah, BJ's just saying too, flies, like small stuff, sold my jig box out in the lake. And like, this is what I'm going to pack for ice fishing this year. I have a couple long jigs. Everything else is small. And like last year, Cold Lake at the ice tournament, I didn't enter it. I went and fished right on top of Sean's numbers and just caught all his big fish. 9 mil tungsten, and I caught multiple Lakers over 30 inches on this 9 mil tungsten with a little tiny piece of meat on it, right? So
yeah, no, that's like when I fish, I'll run a noisemaker in one area, then we'll run a slip sinker or whatever dead stick on a different spot. You bring them in, then we'll have, depending on how many people we have, we can set out further hooks. So you got a dead stick over there, then you got something more aggressive, then, but that's no lives. We don't got no live scope.
We don't got no live scope.
We from the sticks.
Yeah.
So we just rip something loud, and we got something sitting. But no, that makes total sense. Like that's awesome. Like what live scope's bringing for the education. Like you can see how the fish react over there if they're coming into those different situations, and that's a big thing. Like I know they went from 32 to 34 this year, and then they have the 64 coming out. That's ridiculous. It's like 500 feet. You can see like That's a long way in fresh water.
Yeah, I upgraded this season from the 32 to the 34, and like Matt and I were fishing side by side out on Cold Lake, just comparing the two. In the 32, you could get to about 65 to 70 feet deep or depth and still have clarity. On the 34, I can get to about 110 feet and still have clarity or whatever, right? For like actually finding my jig in deep water. But I know one thing.
Is that with a tungsten or just like a heavy tube?
Man, you can see your line. Like if you set up, so they have a recent update called color kill and stuff like that. So you can actually crank your gain up and then actually kill the color kill. So you kill your interference. Yeah. But I can see my line. So I can see 10-pound fluorocarbon at 100 feet down at the bottom, and you can actually watch your line. So you can see your jig like nothing, right? So, but cool. Like in some of our videos last year, like we have times where like taking a picture of one of us with a fish, and you look over at the live scope and you're out Laker fishing and there's a fish cruising at 30 feet of water, and you just drop the camera and start reeling, and you're going to catch that fish, and you've seen them coming in from 50, 60 feet away where you wouldn't have a chance to catch that fish beforehand or otherwise, right?
Yeah. No, that's not.
I couldn't imagine, like, if I got my hands on that, like, I need to win walleye wars because that's about the only reason I get my hands on one of those things. But, I mean, if I got my hands on one of those things, my God, that'd be sick, man. Like, I can only imagine how much fun you have with that, Wes. And like when I say fun, I mean, like, how much you learn from just, like how much have you learned from before you had it to now? Or, like, not even so much learned, as in, like, okay, here comes this. Like, that, like, how many times does it set you up for success that you wouldn't have had before?
It's
countless.
Yeah, it's legitimately. I've caught a pile of fish, specifically Laker fishing or fishing something, even trout that would be a suspended fish. I've caught hundreds of fish that I had no business to catch or no reason to catch, or I wouldn't have caught with the flasher, because like by the time you would have marked that fish, or whether or not he even would have swam through your cone on a flasher higher up, right? And you can see, you start ripping up, and that fish is going to be right. And the other piece is just like you can see in live exactly what that fish is going to do. So
yeah, there's a lot of knowledge to be gained.
Oh yeah, when you're rising and falling and stuff like that, it's game changer or whatever, right? Like,
absolutely.
But I've probably learned more with side imaging and putting more effort and having than I have with Garmin. Like, it's one of those ones where it's a toy. Like, if I'm getting into fishing and it's going to be one of the break the budget things, I wouldn't buy it. If it's one of those ones where I'm fishing a pile and I want to like eclipse where I'm at and get to the next level, it's a pretty cool toy. But I'll leave it as it's a toy. So it's expensive, so it's worth a pile of money. So when we go on crazy trips, I don't bring it with me. Like, it stays. Like, I even have a crazy Pelican case. It stays in home in the basement and stuff like that. So just so we don't break the cord and stuff. But if we're going to a spot where we can drive on, it's pretty crazy. If you're going pan fishing, I can drill a pile of holes and just quickly sweep around, see 200 feet all around, and see bait fish. I can see perch stacked up and stuff like that. But yes.
Here's the question. How long is that going to be allowed in tournaments? Just for the range we can see, like ice fishing tournaments. I know they banned it in some muskie tournaments down south already this year in the States. Is everyone going to go that way just because it's seeing so far now?
Maybe they are. Here's my opinion. There's a pro category and there's an amateur category. If you don't like the pro tools, don't enter the pro category.
Yeah, the other piece is you still got to catch the fish, right? Sometimes the scope is frustrating as hell. The live scope can be frustrating as hell because what am I seeing, right? Like in the summertime, specifically Lac La Biche and stuff like that, you'll mark 80,000 Cisco. And it's just like, now am I chasing a Cisco or am I chasing a walleye, right? So it's just like, sometimes I pack my camera with me because you'll start chasing fish and it's just like, wow, I'm just wasting my time here right now. Like, this fish is all hugging the bottom, but you got to even learn, like, if they're coming in like a little bit bigger schools or acting a bit differently, you're probably chasing a whitefish or a Cisco versus a walleye and stuff like that. So there are times where you still got to know how to use your tools, I guess, right?
Right, absolutely. And like, that's one of the biggest things that I've heard, which would actually be like, I wouldn't say it'd be a negative, but only as far as the angler's knowledge goes. Is like, how much time are you willing to waste on a fish before you realize that that fish is negative and not going to eat, right? So I've heard from a lot of walleye guys, well, I end up spending too much time on a fish because I see it and I want to fish to it and fish to it and fish to it. Well, that's your own mistake. I feel like that's not the technology making the mistake. The technology is telling you everything you need to know. You're just not reacting to it. So, like, I feel like you still have to know how to use it properly. You especially have to know how to read a fish and read a fish's attitude to be able to catch them. Like, it's not just going to hand you fish, but at the same time, when it comes to like sharp shooting something like muskies, it's going to make a big difference. Yeah. But that's only to the point of, if you want to enter the professional category, you're entering the professional category, you know? So,
yeah. Gibson?
I mean, you still have to catch a fish, like Wes said, right?
Yeah.
I think what it does is it takes your learning curve and it shoots it way up. So you get to learn what those fish want at that specific moment, during whether it's in a bite window or the time of day, whatever, where the fish are. Are they going to continue to use it in tournaments? Probably. I don't see why not. I mean, it's at the point now where if it's allowed in pro categories, guys have some form of live sonar. So I don't see it being an issue.
Yeah, I think they'll just do it like archery and everything else. There's the unlimited category. Like archery has an unlimited category. You have your scopes and everything on your bow. So that's your unlimited category. Then there's the hunter category where there is no electronics or whatever. And as long as everybody does it, you do it like that, it'll be okay. Like if everybody wants to use the live scopes and everything at that level, that's a whole different category. If people want to just use regular sonar and flashers, that's a different category.
I think
you can always just do the guys that just want to fish, and that's 3 categories right there, and that's the way the tournament should be laid out.
Well, look at the Campbell River Tyee challenge, Tyee Derby, right? There's no motors allowed. You got to use specific tackle. You got to be in a dory, and you got to roll the damn boat.
Yeah.
So there's going to be different tournaments for different places. I think, like Adam said, it'll be different categories and different types of tournaments with different allowables.
For sure.
And like, I don't think that like you should ever like ban those guys, because like,
no,
to me it's a very very cool way of fishing. Like some of the pelagic fishing that you see in Europe, where they're just like straight jigging Xanders using hummingbirds, is crazy. Like it's crazy. Like they're super cool videos. You can learn a ton from it. Like Wes said, he's developed jigging wheels specifically to lures from watching the way that fish react from watching his live scope. Like it'll teach you a lot, but I don't think you necessarily need it either. Like you have to be a good fisherman still. There's a reason that these guys are at the pro level usually, right? So they're already good fishermen, and then a company is like, okay, or they buy it or whatever happens, right? So there's no way that it should ever be, I don't think it should ever be banned. I just think maybe, categories, and like Gibson said, different strokes for different folks. Maybe you want to go into a rowing only derby, and maybe you want to fish only a 10 cara fly rod or something. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
find what suits you. Because realistically, like people will be like, live scope is the biggest game changer to ever happen to fishing. Well, that's 100% not true. Social media is the biggest game changer that ever happened in fishing. If it wasn't for social media, Alberta would probably struggle. Like it'd be a lot more like limited to where guys would know where to go, or like everywhere. Not, I shouldn't say Alberta. Everywhere would be a lot more limited. A lot more learning curves would be cut, or would be a lot longer, because you couldn't jump on a site and say, hey, I'm going to such and such lake. I want to catch this fish. What do I use? Like you would only be able to call up Uncle Joe and be like, hey, Uncle Joe, what'd you have good luck with last time? You know what I mean? So you still have to be a good fisherman no matter what, whether you rip off people's pictures on social media, whether you have a live scope, whether you go find someone's sight hole and throw the logs off it and re-drill it. you still have to be good at fishing, no matter
Yeah.
what you do. So
Yeah, I think the big thing on that is like you say. So I'm going to answer Brandon's question up a little bit. It says when you're approaching a new or brand new lake and you've never fished before, can't get maps in depth. How do you break down a lake and know where to start? So one, it'll come down to what species I'm targeting. So like I've fished long enough now and I've kept decent enough notes that like I know fish habits based on time of year for spawning, water temps for where I expect the fish to be. Every lake is still slightly different, but the biggest thing is like I'll Google Maps it. I'll look on Google Maps. I'll check old, like on our Alberta government webpage. So there's either going to be fin netting info on those web pages. There's going to be old fisheries reports. One of my favorite areas to fish, the only info I can find on it is fisheries documents from the 1950s. And I put stuff on, but like time on the water, right? Like just kind of go out and set goals, right? Like I'm going to go out and drill holes here and fish this area, but I know this area is going to have fish, kind of thing. Or you go out and you catch fish in one area, you fish it, you have fun, then you put the rest of the time into work. Like there's a lake that a lot of people go up and struggle on, and we do quite well. And like it took me 3 days to figure it out, and I went through about 12 ion batteries before I actually figured out the depth in that lake, because you couldn't figure it out. Like I was so tired I could hardly walk anymore, and I just kept drilling holes and fishing for a few minutes until I found fish. So it's just, you'll do as well or you'll do as good as how hard you work, kind of thing, right? So
if you're exploring a new lake and drilling lots of holes, bring spare blades, because you're gonna end up doing what Gibson does and pound your auger into the sand, and you're gonna stop drilling holes pretty quick. So swap those blades out and don't hit the sand twice in one day like I have.
And batteries, if you have a battery operated. I still run a big Jiffy with a gas engine. Unless I'm early season, I'll run a drill, but if it's late season, bring lots of gas.
What you're using a Jiffy, you're using a 10-inch gas. What are you guys running, Adam and Wes?
Wes, you go first.
I got an 8-inch and a 10-inch G2 ion.
I used the G2 ion last year and I was a big fan of it. Like I just borrowed my buddies and used it a couple times while I was fishing with them. That thing is phenomenal. I was a big fan of it. Do you have any complaints about it, or
no?
Super happy.
It's been super good so far. The only complaint is it has restricted me slightly on where we end up going fishing. So that's why I have so many batteries now, just because like if I'm going to go to Lake Athabasca and stuff like that, I can pack gas. The batteries, it depends on how thick the ice is, I guess, right? Like first ice, I can drill a pile of holes. If I'm going up and fishing 4 feet of ice, like I'm going to get 15 holes out of a battery, depending on the temperature. But the big thing is you got to keep them in an insulated box, insulated bag, and keep the batteries warm. If they go cold, like even -5 cold, they'll just error out or whatever, right? So you've got to be set up to keep the batteries somewhat warm is the only kind of downfall to the electrics. But I think the auger weighs 13 or 15 pounds with the battery. So like you can walk for hours and drill and drill and drill and drill, right? So
yeah, I was a big fan when I used that. I use a Eskimo 8-inch gas Stingray when it's late season, but I actually don't use it that much. I use my 8-inch drill and flight with my Milwaukee. I just bring a ton of batteries with me. And I mean, last year I was drilling through 2 feet of ice, and it shoots fast still, but I bring the gas just in case, because once the ice is that thick, it's a little easier to use. It's just once you're drilling, I like to hole hop a lot. Hole hopping with a gas auger, once I switch to that drill and flight, I just can't do hole hopping with a gas auger anymore. It's just annoying.
Gibson?
I'm running the gas Jiffy.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time. It's got the old school Tecumseh motor, and that thing has never failed me. I just keep it running clean.
The old 30.
Minus
the old
30
heavy is everything gets out, but it always starts.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like -35, that thing will start. So
yeah,
but it does weigh a freaking ton. So
yeah.
And you know what? Like my Eskimo is good to me. Like I run True Fuel in it, so it's always been super good to me, starting wise. But I just get tired hauling it around. I'm just a little guy, you know.
Well, I get tired hauling my around too, but
yeah,
I have the smaller. I run a 6-inch early ice for trout and everything on my drill.
Yeah, I'll drill 100 holes in a day on a lake.
Oh, yeah.
Scouting. So it's just like I got sick of packing stuff, and then I was always running the Jiffy propane. I love the propane because it was easy fueled, clean fuel. But with the 4-stroke, you could still have a wreck if you tipped your skidoo or tipped your toboggan or whatever. You could dump out your oil at the intake. So I was always packing spare oil, spare stuff like that. But it's just once you start using something lighter, it's just like, oh, it's just so much nicer, right?
And cleaner. You don't get, you contaminate your fishing gear. That's going to ruin your whole trip, right? You spill 2-stroke fuel all over your box.
Drilling holes inside the tent. Like that's why I liked propane, because I'd set the tent up and then drill the holes exactly where I want on the outside edges and not worry about stinking the tent up or whatever.
I think we'll start to see like a phasing out of propane and gas here pretty quick, just because of the convenience of electric.
We will see it eventually, just like cars and everything, but we'll see.
And like if you look at the batteries, coming in out in tools nowadays, like not quite hitting some of the augers yet, that like say like Milwaukee are releasing, like the battery technology lately is just leaps and bounds. So like Ion, for example, all those G2s, everything like that, they're just going to get better and better. The batteries are going to last 10 times longer and be even smaller because, so, I mean, I've used the Jiffy Electric, which I found is awesome. But same thing, if those batteries get cold, like it'll be like -10, and you'll leave them on the cooler outside the shack for a couple hours, and be like, oh crap, but then it's already lost a couple bars because it's been sitting there. I feel like it's only going to take a couple more years, and batteries are going to be so far advanced that you're not even going to have to worry about keeping them warm so much anymore. So gas will just be completely gone. I mean, I think I'll always hold on to mine just for the nostalgia aspect of it, but and it's always nice to be that guy at 6 o'clock in the morning when guys are drilling and you pull it out and you just bop, 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 bop. I love doing that. I'm not gonna lie.
I did a trip last winter with Matt Young, and it was -50 outside, and I had my auger outside, batteries inside, but his Eskimo was so cold that the grease in his transfer case or in his transmission there, he couldn't even actually pull his engine over by hand, and we put it in the tent, and it still took like 2 hours before he could actually recoil that engine over. And I had my Ion outside, -50, popped a warm battery in it and started cutting right away, right? So
the warm battery, electronics, you got to keep those that oil good. As long as you run like a 530 in the winter, that lighter stuff.
Zero weight even, But even like I've got an inverter in my truck, right? So when I'm going from lake to lake, I have 2 chargers for my augers and batteries on the chargers, and it's like stopping at the convenience store to get gas, right? Because up north where I go fishing a lot of times, there are no gas stations, right? So it's they've got their advantages too, right? So
I'm all for electronic augers. I just like the big Jiffy always because it gets me out of the binds half the time.
And I mean, like I've hiked in a lot of places, like, I mean, you don't want to hike with a 30-pound auger if you don't have to. You know what I mean?
100%.
So if you can cut that weight down, strap your flight to your backpack and stick a drill in your backpack, well, hey, why not? You know what I mean?
Kind of drill are you running? Because I had a Milwaukee, like the pretty high-end Milwaukee hammer drills, and I burnt out 2 motors in those drills cutting with my K-drill.
Was it a brushless?
Yeah, brushless. Yeah,
and it still died.
Oh yeah, I drill a pile of holes. Like I fish probably more than the 3 of you guys combined, though, right?
That's not true.
Wow. I don't post a pile or a portion of the times where I'm fishing.
Yeah, no, you fish a lot, and it's all
Which one is it? 280420. I'll just send you the specs because we don't need to really get into that on an ice show. But
kind of curious.
I just run the Milwaukee, and like I'll drill. So I have the Woods flight. Like I don't have an expensive white flight. I have the Canadian Tire brand flight Woods, and I mean I've drilled 100 holes through 6 inches of ice brookie fishing in one day and not burnt it out. So
Yeah.
This sounds like
I don't know. I've
another
been a
show.
super
This
big fan.
sounds like a drill
I've
show.
watched DeWalt's blow up on the ice, but I've been a super big fan of this one anyway so far.
Okay. This sounds like a different show when we can all meet up on a lake and just have a competition until we blow up a drill. We'll use different flights. I'll figure it out. We'll get this going. Talk to people. But that sounds like a good competition show anyways.
Just have an auger off.
An auger off, drill off, or it might just end up in who knows.
So I'll bring my inhaler so that when Gibson has to haul his gas around, we can give it to him and make sure he's all right.
I'll be face down, passed out, trying to keep up with Wes.
Yeah.
So I guess to probably end the show here, what's everyone's big trip they got planned for the ice year?
I don't have any big trips planned. I'll tell you that. That's my big trip.
No big trips?
No.
Gibson?
I fish by myself, so I'll go when I want.
Walleye overnighters. Do a bunch of those. They're tons of fun. Love them. As far as big trips, I'm not driving 17 hours north into the jungle like you do,
Yeah.
to go fish some unmapped lake that hasn't been documented since 1950. No, I'm gonna stick to these southern Alberta reservoirs with the 80-kilometer-an-hour winds.
Yeah, my farthest trip will probably be in Manitoba.
Yeah.
So
Manitoba would be sweet. The lucky
Manitoba's
thing,
always
like
great.
Wes, you live the single guy life. You know, we can just up and go whenever we want. So that's
Yeah,
usually how I rock. I fish by myself all the time. So
My problem, Adam, though, is that I fish with a senior citizen, and he's kind of a little bit of a scaredy cat. We've got, if we recorded all the predicaments we've gotten into, you guys would probably laugh. Last year at about 2:30 in the morning, we got stuck in the middle of the bush with my truck and skidoo and had to tow my truck out of the bush with my skidoo for about 3.5 hours while we shoveled. But Matt and I are looking at Name Your Lake first ice. We're going to hit up Name Your for some Lakers and pike. And then Sean, if he's still on here or not, or if he's fallen asleep yet, is we got a big trip planned to Cree here. So
I think he's in bed for sure.
Yeah, no, there might be another Cree Lake for me as well. I don't know. I got a great invite last year and it just didn't work out the timing. So Cree would be deadly.
Cree would be amazing. Like, I mean, that's like one of the best fisheries we have in Alberta, I'd say, or not Alberta, sorry, in Canada, when it comes to pike and Lakers. So, I mean, how that's got to be on the bucket list for everyone. If I got that, I might hide on the back of your snowmobile, Wes.
I'll put you in my box.
Actually, I'll run. I'll just run behind you. I've been working on my endurance.
Just throw them in your box.
You
Wes.
care if you can haul my gear for me, I'll just run there.
Yeah, no, Cree would be amazing. There's a lot of opportunities that pop up. It's just, can a guy do it?
So I guess I'll end with a spoiler here. So day 186 kilometers by skidoo. So that's our spoiler for October 17th.
Ooh.
Yeah, Amber, my sled blew up when I came to say hi. I had a $200 Kijiji special, so people couldn't find me in the tournament.
Oh, I remember that.
It died.
I totally remember that. Oh man, I remember that.
Well, that's just because I didn't want people following, chasing me around the lake and finding my numbers. So we stopped.
I remember when that happened. Because I don't know if you were on the show or Amber was on the show.
Yeah, good video of me. I'll post it on my Instagram story tonight so everyone can see me getting towed away.
You were Amber on the show, and I remember when it happened. I remember talking about it last year. So that is sick. This is going to be a good show coming up, I think. But anybody else have anything they want to bring up for the evening, Cap?
That's it for me.
Don't fall through the ice this year.
Yes.
Oh, actually, I do. Because we didn't say it. Get yourself a carbon monoxide detector before you go camping on the ice. Leave it at your head level. Don't put it at the top of the tent. Put it at your head level. Carbon monoxide is going to get you down here, not up here.
Heck yeah. Wes, where can everybody find you and your new format?
Well, popular to contrary belief here. I'm actually on Instagram at Fishing with Zephyr, or on Facebook Wes Kyle, or Wesley Kyle, I guess. So
All right. So don't go looking for a fishing nerd. It's not established yet.
no, I haven't completely rebranded yet. We're still working out some technicalities on the legal end of things.
Waiting for the copyrights.
Yeah.
Adam, where can I get you?
If you want to find me, you can go to my YouTube, find me at the Horseshoe Kid. That's about it for me for social media.
Gibson?
Instagram, Gibson Tilly. Pretty easy to find.
Big
Sounds
hogs,
good.
big hog walleyes.
Yeah. You guys
Hopefully
can find
soon.
me here or on the Northwest Mist page on Instagram or YouTube on Northwest Adventures, where you might be watching the show right now. Thanks, everybody, for being on. It's a good way to kick off the ice season because it's lingering. And
It's going to do that slow linger again, I think. Like, I want to say it's going to freeze up quick. It's going to do the slow linger.
yeah. Wes is talking to Sean right now.
Well,
He's
I've
too
actually,
busy with all the fancy
everyone.
stuff.
I don't even follow Gibson on Instagram.
Oh, you don't like me.
Oh,
That is
don't
just
like me.
savage.
Oh.
On the show. Here. Oh.
But hey, look.
Where's
It
my
doesn't say
finger? There.
follow back, so I don't
See?
like you either. So there
Don't
you
you
go.
look following?
I'll have to follow
Following.
you after this.
It's actually, it shows following.
Amazing. What a guy.
Savage.
Amazing.
All right, everybody. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for being on. It was a great show. Like, lots of knowledge dropped. Like, we went overtime. People learned a lot, I'm assuming. I know that for sure. So we will see you soon. See you soon. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be down south mule deer hunting. So I might give you an update. I don't know. I might not be in reception. So I might not be able to do anything. But if anything, it'll be update. After that, we have the ladies of fishing on the following Tuesday. All of our good friends that you always love watching. So we'll see you next Tuesday or the Tuesday after. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, Mitch. See you,
Peace.
fellas.